I'm going to be attempting making pizza balls today. I've never made this before. There's a gas station by us that sells them and a couple of restaurants. And we like them, and I thought, why not try to make some? So I have a half a cup of warm water. So I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of yeast. That seems like a lot. I don't really use yeast that often, so I'm not sure. I mostly do sourdough and it already has yeast. So I'm not sure. That sounds like a lot to me, but that's what the recipe said, so that's what I'm going to do. And I need 2 teaspoons of white sugar. And I'm going to mix this up, and it's supposed to sit for 5 minutes. You'll see it like get bubbly and frothy. And it said to watch for overflowing, so hopefully I used a big enough cup. I also need 1/3 of sugar later. So I'm just going to get that out now so I don't have to get in this. So while this is sitting aside, I'm going to mix up some of the dough. Next it says to mix 2 cups of flour, that sugar that I pulled out, so that's 1/3 of a cup, 2.5 teaspoons of salt, and a stick of butter. So I already melted the butter. I'm just going to pour that in there. And it says 2.5 teaspoons of salt. I'm just going to pour some in. This is my Redmond salt. I really like this salt. It says to mix this together. And yes, I am following a recipe because I've never made this before. I haven't really made a lot of breads. All right, so that is mixed up. And it says to add 2 cups of warm milk. So I just warmed this up in the microwave for a little bit. Add 1 egg. We got new chickens the end of summer. They were little chicks and they lay white eggs, and they have started laying for us now. And then it says to add in the yeast mix. So it is nice and bubbly. And I'm just going to pour that in there. And there is some stuck to the side, so I'm going to try to scrape some of it out. And then it says to mix this up and let it sit for 5 minutes. So it's all mixed up, and the recipe says to let it sit for 5 minutes. So it's been 5 minutes, and it looks the same as when I left it. And this recipe says to add 4 more cups of flour, but it says to do it 1 cup at a time, mixing it after every cup. And as you can see, I am not doing that. I'm just going to put in 3 cups, slowly mix it, and go from there. And you want to turn your mixer on low when you start this, because it will shoot flour all over your kitchen if you just turn it on full speed. Wonder how I know. So I think this looks like a good consistency. I'm not sure, I've never made this before. It says to knead it, or like to gather it up into a ball and then grease it. I plan on putting the melted butter that was left over, but that is already cold. So we'll see. But I am going to flour my hands first. So I feel like that needs more flour, because it's like, I'm just making a mess. So I'm adding more flour. I feel like it's too sticky of a dough to try to make rolls out of. So I'm just gonna add a little more flour. Okay. I turn it off first. So I feel like this looks more like a dough. So that's what I'm gonna go with. So that is what it looks like right now. I'm just going to cover this up with a wet towel and let it rise for 1 hour. It could take longer because my house is kind of cold. While my dough is rising, I'm going to make some pizza sauce. So this is an Italian flavored tomato juice that we made. We went to make sauce and it just didn't happen, and we just canned it really liquidy. And then this is tomato paste that we made 2 years ago, so we need to use it up. And it has all the seeds and stuff in it. It was before I had my food mill to go on my KitchenAid. I think that's decent consistency. Maybe I'll put a little bit more in. I don't want it to be super runny either. Really good. I'm gonna put these in the fridge just in case I need to make more sauce. I'm not sure how much I'm gonna need. I don't want to make too much of it at once because we're not gonna use it again for a while. And then I can use these in other recipes this week. All right, it's been over an hour. Can't tell if it's doubled or raised or anything, but I'm gonna get it out anyways. Seems like a pretty good dough. So the recipe that I made the dough for called for 24 rolls. And I think I'm just gonna do 6 because I'm gonna need them to be bigger to cover like the pepperoni and the cheese. I don't have any really bread baking tools like a bench scraper or any of that. So I'm just gonna cut these with a knife. So on the other side over here, it's kind of hard to see on the camera. My hands are really covered with flour, so I don't really want to move it. But I'm sprinkling some flour, and I'm just putting the little balls over there. So I'm just making them into balls, and then I'm going to roll them out. These might be too big. I don't know. Like I said, this is my first time doing this, and it is trial and error. All right, we'll see. All right, let's see how this goes. That might have been too much pizza sauce. I think I'm going to do even less. You can always use this to dip it in after you make them too, but I'm worried about them being really messy. Do some cheese. I thought I had more mozzarella cheese than this, but this bowl is all that I have, so I'm going to try to spread it out. So I'm doing 2 pieces of pepperoni, 2 pieces of salami, and these were just frozen in my freezer, and I thawed them in hot water, and they got a little too warm, so now they're like greasy. So then I'm just going to kind of ball it up. And just really hope that doesn't come out. And then I'm going to bake them like this. I can't remember the time. I am a little concerned about this. Whatever. I can't remember the temperature, but they're going to bake for 25 minutes. And then I greased a pizza pan. I'm just going to put them on here. So I have one pan ready to go for the oven. I still have more over here that I'm going to make while these are in the oven. We'll see what they look like when they're done. This is what they look like coming out of the oven. They are very hot. If you want them brown, you can always put an egg wash or a butter wash on them. I opted not to, but I'm gonna get these off of this pan. I'm gonna put some foil on my counter and then put these on there. I'm actually gonna have to wash the pan in between the next round of baking. I have some melted butter. I'm gonna brush them all with butter. You can do garlic butter, seasoned butter, whatever you want. I'm just doing plain. Oops. That is coming out faster than I anticipated. And then I'm just gonna put Parmesan cheese on the top of all of them. And once they cool off a little bit, I will cut one in half and try it. The bottom is a little tough to cut. And they're definitely raw on the bottom. I think because I had too much dough balled up under here. It's really hot, but they're still really good. I would try again and maybe make the dough balls a little bit smaller so that way they didn't have so much dough on the bottom. Oh, and I baked these for 40 minutes at 350. The next ones I might flip upside down, try them that way. So the second batch I ended up flipping over halfway through to see if that would help at all. And then my butter got hard in between bakes. And hopefully these ones have a little bit of a better cook to them, which after they cool off, I will cut into one and check it out. So even though I flipped them over, they're still not cooked. So definitely gonna try something else next time. All the recipes I could find called for refrigerator dough. And like, I didn't have any of that from the store, and I don't plan on having any of that from the store. So I just kind of did with what I had. I also needed more cheese. And maybe I should have made these smaller, like did the 24 instead of the 12, or cut it in half. But I definitely would try them again. Makes a few changes. But not bad for a first try.